Hello, I'm Willa Perlman, and I'm honored to be here to ask some questions of Peter Jovanovich, who is an icon in the international education technology industry, having been a president of Harker Brace Jovanovich, CEO of McGraw-Hill Education and Professional Publishing, chairman of Pearson Education, and currently director of two Chinese education technology companies, Best Learning and the Learning Lab. Peter, having been in the education industry for more than four decades, what are some of the enduring truths that you have seen in let's start with K-12.
Well, let's start with Israel. I've never been here before. My wife and I came. We've had a blast. I mean, we've just loved every moment. We love this country. I don't know how many Presbyterians are emigrating to Israel, but maybe my wife and I can start a trend. Well, actually, it's not going to happen. We have two grandchildren at home. But I have to say that part of the opportunity, as far as educational technology, is this is a great country. And I've had, as I said, one of the great times I've ever had. So start with that. What was the question again?
The question was, what are some of the enduring truths that you have seen in the K-12 ecosystem during the 4 decades that you have been engaged in education technology?
Well, it's a lesson that everyone learns, fails at, learns at again and again, which is the teacher is central. And the expression, we no longer want her to be the sage on the stage, but the guide on the side, is absolute nonsense. She will be central because she has the human capacity of empathy and imagination which drives learning. And every educational technology product that says, well, we're going to replace this woman, well, you're not going to replace 2 million years of hominid evolution that created the faculty of empathy and imagination. So when I look at EdTech products in the K-12 market, my first look is, are they trying to replace the teacher, or are they trying to help the teacher? And if they're trying to help the teacher, then I'm interested and I invest. If they're trying to replace the teacher, ultimately I know it's doomed because of that faculty. So anyway.
Let's turn to higher ed.
Yeah.
What are some of the enduring truths in the higher ed market?
There aren't any. It's being blown up. And it's about time. I think there's tremendous opportunity for disruption, and if you're in the technology business, you should be looking at higher ed in ways to deliver training and information that runs across what these bureaucratic structures have been created. So I think the decline of enrollment in the United States is actually good news. It's falling about 1% as students discover that they can have happy and productive lives doing something else. And what we need to do in the educational technology business is to provide them with a means to gain skills without borrowing obscene amounts of money. So anyway.
Let's talk about disruptive technology. Again, having been in this business over 4 decades, what have you seen that is truly disruptive?
Well, one of the greatest, and no one saw this coming, but out of left field, was the death of cheating. I mean, for centuries, people have been adding, going back to the Middle Ages, no doubt, Duns Scotus was handed in papers that in fact were written by someone else. Well, Turnitin.com has ended all of that. And I think when I look at companies, a lot of times I look for quirky aspects of them. And this was definitely quirky. I mean, it wasn't driving this thing. It was solving, though, an enormous problem. So there is disruption there, but a lot of times I think it comes in ways, out of left field probably is not how much baseball is played in Israel. In any case, it came out of left field, and I tend to look for technology solutions that do come out of left field, rather than straight on and say, okay, I'm going to teach algebra better than it's being taught right now, when there are already 20 algebra programs out there.
So what is technology missing? What are technologies trying to do that they shouldn't be trying to do?
Well, I talked a little bit about it in terms of you're not going to replace human empathy, so move in another direction. The opportunity is, among other things, in big data. Turnitin.com is a great example of the use of big data. I think the other, and this is an inappropriate metaphor in Israel, but the grail of educational technology is speech recognition so that I can finally talk to a machine and learn English. The demand for English instruction is never going to diminish. All that talk about, well, we're all going to learn how to speak Mandarin is nonsense. I'm a director of a company in Beijing, and upper middle class parents there are spending a lot of money starting at age 4 to teach their child how to speak English. We have a shortage of foreign teachers. It just seems to me that whether it's through big data or some other means, that someone is going to crack this code so that I can have conversational exercises with a machine. And the size of the market is enormous and growing still faster than the GDP of the world.
So what do you think about this as a time to be an EdTech entrepreneur in Israel as opposed to, say, an EdTech entrepreneur in the United States?
I don't even think that's a pertinent question. This is a great country. I mean, so why shouldn't it succeed?
Well, one of the things that we had talked about, and I guess I was driving at, is the fact that, there is so much junk, if you will. It's just a crowded market. And here in Israel, we've been here for the last week because Peter and I are partners in a new impact EdTech investment firm, Haskala Partners. Tell me a little bit about what you've seen.
What I've seen is a number of people who actually are quirky, which is good. And I haven't seen what I expected to see, which was the 21st application on how to teach algebra. The world doesn't need the 21st, and so on. I've also seen a willingness on, there's a Hebrew word for practical, which someone explained to me and I've forgotten what it meant. Thankfully, I've seen less blue sky, I'm going to save civilization in the world than I expected. And it's what I see in America. I mean, first expression is, and of course, I'm here to transform education. I haven't heard that expression here. I've heard people say, I'm going to solve a problem. And that I like. And when it gets to, some almost quasi-religious change, this is what happened with the Gates Foundation. They got religion. They decided they were going to transform the American public education. 56 million students, 15,000 school districts in 50 states, and they were going to transform the whole thing. And they wasted $3 billion. It was a complete failure. And the great thing about Israel, I haven't heard the word systemic. Oh, I'm into systemic change. How about we have this problem over here with this kind of learning, and I think I can fix it. So that's what I've liked, what I've heard here.
Thank you. Well, they're telling me that the time is up. Yaki, do we have opportunity for a question, or do we need to wrap up?
Yes. Oh, okay. Question?
Anyone?
Yeah.
Is there a way to, for startup,
Yeah.
for investment,
Right.
is there a way to take money from the standard VC route and also from the foundation route?
No, it's those rivers never meet. I have worked as a president of a foundation which gave money to poor kids going to the City University of New York. My wife actually is president of the foundation now. We support about 80 to 100 students annually. And that nonprofit stream cannot be polluted by for-profit enterprises, even if it were useful. There's just too much conflict. I've worked both sides of the street, now really mixed metaphors. I've worked both banks of the river, and it doesn't work. I'll just say that.
And also, the for-profit wouldn't be interested in the
Utilitarian money has to make a return. My wife runs a foundation. It's got, a little bit over $10 million in assets. It does nothing but good. She pays herself virtually nothing. Her expenses of her foundation are like 6% of assets, ridiculously low. And she still has to earn money. That money's got to earn money. So in this instance of foundations and so on and so forth, yes, they need earnings. It's not good enough for us to get the S&P 500 average and so on. So I do think there is opportunity through foundations to invest in Israeli startups, just as they invest in a lot of other things.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.